My name is Sarah Brown. I've been married for 4 years and I'm the mom of a 3-year-old daughter. Since I work as a truck driver, I leave my child with my mother while I work. Even though I have a commercial driver's license, I chose route delivery jobs for the sake of my child. The pay is pretty good, so I'm personally satisfied. My husband works at the same company as a long-haul driver. He used to handle local routes, but after our child was born, he switched to long-distance routes. I once asked him, "Why did you switch to long-distance routes after our child was born? Don't you want to be with our child?" He said he wanted to earn money while our child was young to save for her future education. But with long-distance routes, he's home less than half the month. Even when he's home, he sleeps all day and then goes back to work. Since we're both drivers, I understand how tough his job is. One day, when I returned from my route, I saw my husband's truck parked. I guess he's back. Thinking I would go home with him, I looked for Andrew. But he wasn't in the office. He should be in the office writing his report by now, but he's not. Where could he be? Thinking that, I looked around to see where he might be. Then, I saw Andrew and the office clerk, Alice, going into the truck's container. Why is he in the container with the clerk? I watched them secretly. They seemed suspiciously close. Peeking through the gap of the slightly closed door, I saw them embracing. What the? Is this really happening? Realizing the situation, I firmly shut the container door. Then I got into the driver's seat and checked the monitor inside the container. My husband's truck is equipped with a camera to check the condition of the cargo. Manipulating the controls, I had a clear view of the inside. In the dim container, they began passionately making love. "Oh, really, starting this here, are you? I won't forgive you." Determined, I started the engine and set the temperature inside the container to 0 Fahrenheit. The two, startled by the moving truck, began yelling something. But I couldn't hear what they were saying. The temperature inside continued to drop until it hit the set 0 degree. They must have been freezing because they huddled close together. "What? It's so cold." Their shivering lips must have been saying it was cold. Of course, it's cold. I never want to experience a world at 0 degree. Besides, it's warm outside, so the two of them are probably wearing pretty light clothes. There's no way they aren't freezing. On the other hand, I was burning with anger. "I'll never forgive them," I muttered to myself as I drove into a residential area. As I drove, I recalled how things had been since my husband started long-distance driving. He was hardly ever home and never played with our child. When I said our child felt lonely, he told me it was for our child's sake. I couldn't argue further with that. For our child. To buy a house. I couldn't go against a husband who was working hard for our family. He's working hard for us, after all. However, seeing other families spending time together at amusement parks and zoos made me realize that being together as a family was more important than money. Is this really the kind of life we want? Even so, whenever I contacted him, he replied quickly and always brought back souvenirs when he stopped at a parking area. When did that stop happening? No matter how much I called, he'd say it was a bother and wouldn't even check my messages. I protested against his harsh words once. "Hey, I'm worried about you, and you say it's a bother. Isn't that too much? How would you feel if you got calls while driving? Wouldn't you find it annoying? Yeah, but at least call me back later. If I had the time, I'd rather sleep. Every minute counts. Don't you get how tough long-distance driving is?" Sure, long-distance driving is tough. Maybe it's dozens of times harder than route delivery. But this isn't how a family should be. Not knowing where you are or what you're doing makes me anxious. "I'm obviously driving. Stop saying stupid things." But his attitude only made me more anxious and suspicious. Is he really cheating? Is he avoiding contact because he has another woman? As a long-distance driver, he could easily have an affair. Something's wrong. Andrew's behavior is so different from before. It's hard to trust him. Now, my suspicions have become reality. The monitor shows them huddling together, trying to stay warm. A mere clerk and driver wouldn't be this close. There's no way non-dating coworkers would be all over each other like this. I thought he might be cheating, but with the clerk. And she's 10 years younger than Andrew. This is unforgivable. How dare he make a fool of me? He said he didn't have time to cheat, but it was all lies. He wasn't working hard for our child. I'll make sure he understands the consequences of betraying his wife. Just you wait. I entered a narrow cul-de-sac in the residential area. Stopping the truck, I slid out of the driver's seat. I rang the doorbell of a house. Delivery. I called into the intercom, and my mother-in-law came out. She still had that stern look on her face. Looking at photos from her younger days, she had a gentle and beautiful face, but now she had a very stern look. It seemed this change was due to her husband's infidelity. My father-in-law was apparently an incurable womanizer who repeatedly cheated. Each time he cheated, my mother-in-law cried, but over time, the repeated infidelities hardened her spirit, making her believe she couldn't trust men. Since then, her face became stern, and she transformed into a woman who seemed ready to slice down anyone who came near. But contrary to her appearance, she was actually very kind. Though I was initially afraid of her after getting married, I grew to like her once I saw her true nature. Listen, Sarah. If Andrew ever cheats on you, never forgive him. If you forgive him once, he'll do it a second time, and a third. If you find out he's cheating, tell me. I'll deal with him. That's what she told me. And that's why I came to my in-laws' house. Oh, Sarah. Here with a big truck. Are you working? No, it's not work-related. I said, opening the container door. Of course, inside were Andrew and the woman, hugging. What is this? A delivery from the scene of the affair. An affair? Andrew and such a young girl? Yes, that's right. I suspected something for a while, and now I caught them. Though I intended to say it with a laugh, tears started falling for some reason. I had resolved not to cry over this. I wanted to laugh it off and give him what he deserved, but here I was, crying. Seeing me, my mother-in-law seemed to understand everything, and with a stern look, she ordered the two of them inside. Stepping out of the cold container, they seemed relieved by the warmth outside. But that relief would soon turn into hell. In the living room was my father-in-law. Dad, this is Andrew's affair partner. My father-in-law was speechless. Now, sit down and explain exactly what's going on. Explain, what exactly? Are you really in that kind of relationship? My mother-in-law's interrogation left no room for lies. It was clear that she had overpowered my father-in-law in a similar manner, making her a strong ally. No, Mom, it's not like that. This is Alice, the office clerk. I wanted her to check out my truck because it was acting up. Does an office clerk understand truck issues? Do you have a mechanic's license? No. No, I brought her into the container to show her what was wrong. Understanding the issue is necessary for repairs. Sarah, is that true? Do you ask office clerks for help when your truck is acting up? No, Mom. Office clerks wouldn't understand that. I'd ask a male colleague or the repair staff. Alice handles accounting, so it wouldn't make sense to ask her to be dealing with it. Andrew made a big mistake. That mistake is forgetting that I work at the same company. He forgot that I worked at the same company and tried to cover things up with lies. Andrew, do you think that kind of lie is gonna work? If you're gonna lie, at least make it believable. Not that there's any lie that won't get found out. She's right. My mother-in-law can see through any lie. But the truck really was acting up. The truck you two were in, that's the one Sarah drove here, right? Yes. Sarah, did you feel anything wrong with the truck? No, it was very comfortable. The internal temperature was set perfectly, and it was quite cold, just as it should be. I don't think there was any problem. You see, Andrew? Now, young lady, what did Andrew tell you was wrong with the truck? Well. He didn't say anything, did he? No. Hey, Alice. But I can't lie. That's right, lying would only make things worse. You're much smarter than Andrew. So, are you two having an affair? No, it's not an affair, it's more of a romantic relationship. I love her. My, you have the nerve to say that in front of your wife. But if lying would make things worse, then I had to tell the truth. That's true. So, Sarah, I'm sorry, but it's a love affair. How long has this been going on? With Alice, it's been 6 months. With Alice? So, there were others before? Since I started seeing Alice, it's only been her. But before her, there were a few others. You're terrible. Was this around the time you stopped returning my calls? Yeah, pretty much. Where do you meet these women? At bars, or various places. There are so many men out there who can't find a partner, and you. How do you manage to find so many women? But now, it's only Alice. I can't believe you're such a cheater. You can't escape your genes. When my mother-in-law looked at my father-in-law, he just hung his head and couldn't meet her gaze. Apparently, he's been unable to stand up to her ever since she caught him cheating. Unbelievable. Sarah is working so hard to support the family, and here you are, fooling around with other women. This is absolutely unforgivable. That might be true, but in the old days, this would be adultery, punishable by law. Mom, that's outdated. It's not about being outdated or not. Yes, ma'am. How could you do this while having a wife? But, we were only in the container, we didn't do anything. Do you think saying you didn't do anything is gonna work? It's not about whether you did something or not. The problem is that you're in an affair. Yeah. I guess you're right. You say you didn't do anything, but I saw you kissing in the container. What? No. It was clearly shown on the monitor. This is unbelievable. I can't believe you're such a fool. I'm cutting off all financial support to you. What? No. You can't do that. Support? What support? Oh, Sarah, didn't you know? He said he was so broke he couldn't even afford pocket money, so I've been giving him an allowance every month. No way. Andrew makes over $6,000 a month. He hardly contributes to the household. He says since he's only home about 10 days a month, he shouldn't have to pay for groceries. But I told him we're married, and we have a child to feed. Then he said he'd pay when he's home but only gave $10, saying that's enough for a fast food meal. I told him we're not eating fast food, but he said since he doesn't eat at home, he shouldn't have to pay. What? He told me he couldn't get any allowance because you were taking all the money. That's impossible. He doesn't contribute to the household, so I asked him to. He said he was saving for our child's future, to buy a house, a new car for family trips, and for our child's education. I thought he was saving all this money. Andrew, are you saving? If you were doing what you said, you should have saved over $200,000 by now. Well, not exactly, not that much. So, how much do you have saved? About $1,000? That's practically nothing. There are a lot of expenses with long-distance driving. Food, shower fees. The company covers shower fees. Andrew. I'm sorry. I spent it all on fun. You're unbelievable. Sarah's practically raising the child alone. Well, yeah. So, it won't be a problem if I'm not around. That's so irresponsible. I can't consider you my son anymore. I'm disowning you. Wait, you can't just disown me out of the blue. I don't want to consider you my son anymore. Dad, you understand, right? Even if you're married, you still look at other women, right? You still want to have fun with them, right? But my father-in-law, unable to agree, left the room. Dad. With his father gone, Andrew had nowhere left to turn and sulked. Fine. If you're gonna disown me, go ahead. I'm earning good money anyway. Andrew, who had been relying on his parents all this time, now accepted his disownment, but my mother-in-law was deeply disappointed. I'm getting a divorce too. I didn't want to be married to such a fool anymore. Thinking that, I brought up divorce. Being disowned by his mother and then divorced by me would be quite a blow to Andrew, or so I thought. However, Andrew's response was surprisingly nonchalant. Go ahead. I was thinking of divorcing you too. I don't mind at all. What? Yeah, I have young Alice. I love her and want to marry her. If you divorce me, that's great. Right, Alice? Now we can get married. What? But Alice looked surprised. I'll take custody of the child. Yeah, that's fine. I can always have more. Alice is only 27. She's so young, she can have plenty of kids from now on. How about we start tonight? I'm not sure about that. What's wrong? It'll be great. Our kids will be so cute. My mother-in-law and I exchanged glances. We had noticed Alice's surprise and confusion. Andrew, oblivious to Alice's feelings, was happily talking about marriage, but Alice didn't seem to agree. She doesn't intend to marry Andrew. She might even be seeing someone else. That's what I thought. I'll send you the divorce papers later. Come get your stuff. Oh, my stuff. Yeah. Since I'll be marrying Alice, I can just move into her apartment, right? Well, I'm not sure about that. When we have kids, we'll move to a bigger place. But for now, your apartment is fine. Andrew continued to make plans on his own, but Alice didn't agree. Seeing Andrew's future clearly, I said, well then, I'm off, and left my in-laws' house. As I headed to the door, I heard my mother-in-law's sharp voice, you two should leave too, followed by Andrew's cheerful chatter. A few days later, I packed all of Andrew's things into boxes, ready to be taken away, and was redecorating my place for me and my child. Then, Andrew showed up. Hey, Sarah. Oh, it's Andrew, the stranger. Have you come to sign the divorce papers? I placed the divorce papers on the table, but Andrew just stared at them. Could you sign them quickly? So this is the famous divorce paper. Yes, it's our last joint effort. Just sign it and leave. Well, what is it? Just sign and take your stuff. Right in front of me, he suddenly got down on his knees. I'm sorry. Sarah, please forgive me. What the? I was wrong. Please hold off on the divorce. Hold off on the divorce? There's no such thing. I can't bring myself to divorce you. I don't get it. You were so happy about it a few days ago. Well, the truth is, after I left with Alice that day, I asked when we should get married. But she said she didn't want to get married. Alice said that? Yeah, can you believe it? We were so in love, but when it came down to it, she didn't want to get married. Just as I thought. So, I asked her why she wouldn't marry me. Then she said she never intended to get married. So, I was just being played. I'm not sure about that. I was shocked. I love her so much, but when it comes down to it, she won't marry me. It's awful. I told her I love her, but it was no use. I see. When I asked why she wouldn't marry me, she said she couldn't imagine marrying someone who cheats. That's interesting. She said people who cheat will cheat again even if they get married. Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't do that. I'm not so sure about that. I was serious. But she said marrying someone who cheats would make her too anxious. That's true. Once someone cheats, it's impossible to trust them again. You'll always wonder if they're cheating again. Living with that kind of anxiety would be hell. But since Alice herself was the one he cheated with, I don't see why she would reject him so strongly. I told her I was serious, but she said I must have been serious when I married you too. Bingo. Andrew did say that during our courtship. He used to say, "I'm serious and you're the only one I love. And even though you have a child, you still went after another woman. So if you marry me and we have kids, you'll do it again." She's pretty smart. I trusted Andrew completely and married him without doubt, but she seems to be thinking ahead. She asked how many women I'd dated before meeting her, and I was honest. I told her she was the best, and that's why I chose her. I said there was no one as attractive as her. But she said I must have said the same thing to my wife. "Oh, yes, you did say that." "I did." "Yeah. You said, you're the best. There's no one better. I've never met anyone as attractive as you." "Well, I meant it then, but then I met Alice, and she's even more attractive." So it was true at the time, but now it's different. "So, you're saying someone even more attractive than Alice might come along?" "Yeah, she said something like that. Alice said when you're in love, you can forgive anything, but when the love cools, you start looking elsewhere. She said it's best to keep it as a fling and move on. She's very pragmatic." That might be true, but only for guys like Andrew. She said if she ever gets married, it should be to someone who matches her. That's what anyone would think. Marrying someone you don't match with is a recipe for unhappiness. Even so, I couldn't forget her. After all we've been through, I feel responsible and think I should marry her. So I kept asking her to marry me. Then the boss called me in. The boss? Why would the boss get involved? I was surprised too. I thought he might be mad about an office romance. But he told me to stay away from his daughter. What? The boss's daughter? This is the first I've heard of that. I didn't know either. Apparently, Alice is the boss's daughter, and she keeps it secret so the employees don't feel uncomfortable. I see. So she keeps it secret to avoid making things awkward at work. I told her I was serious, but she said, "That's why you're gross." Why would I want to be with someone 10 years older and married? Dad, I can't work with someone like him around. It's awful. Oh. What a piece of work. She told the boss I kept pestering her to be with me even though I'm married, that I forced her into the container and assaulted her. She said I misunderstood her kindness and kept telling one lie after another. She used to say she loved me so much. Wow, serves you right. And then she said she never had those intentions, that I was just mistaken, and that I put her through hell. Mistaken, huh? And when you said you wanted a divorce, she said she was shocked and that I'd been wanting to divorce you too. She said she was scared to stay at the company because of how I pressured her about marriage. She called me a stalker. Isn't that terrible? Oh. Not terrible at all. Because of that, I got fired. Oh my! So, if you divorce me, I'm in big trouble. I can't survive like this. There's always demand for truck drivers. There are plenty of job openings. Don't make it sound so easy. Just find another job. Switching jobs isn't that simple. Learning a new job is tough. I don't want to go through all that hassle. So, let's not get divorced. Who would want to stay married for such a ridiculous reason? I can't think of any reason not to go through with the divorce. But think about it. We have a child. Yeah, one you never cared about. No, I cared. You spent all the money you said you were saving for her. You claimed to be working for her, but were really fooling around with other women. Can you still say it was for our child? Well, that's just how you see it. To me, the child was the priority, then you, and third is, whatever. Does anyone even know that phrase anymore? If I know it, others do. That's not the point. A man who puts his child first doesn't lie, doesn't waste money, and doesn't rely on his parents for support. A man who puts his wife second doesn't cheat with other women. Why not? Because I don't want to trust someone like you ever again.
Don't say that. Let's start over. We're meant to be together. Our red string of fate is still intact. Snap.
What? That was the sound of it breaking. Please, no.
Anyway, you and I are done. I've decided. So take your stuff and go.
With that, I threw his boxes out into the yard. Some of it might be fragile, but I didn't care. That's harsh.
No, it's not. Sign the divorce papers. I've listened to your nonsense long enough. I won't sign. We're not getting divorced.
Really?
Really. I'm your husband and our daughter's father.
Fine. I'll get a lawyer. I have no regrets about leaving a cheating husband.
No way, I refuse to get divorced. I don't care if you bring a lawyer, I'm not getting divorced.
Got it. Then I'll get a lawyer. And I'll be demanding alimony and child support, so be prepared to pay. What, you can't be serious? I'm very serious. After getting fired, Andrew disappeared from the company. He thought he could find work as a truck driver, but the boss had pulled some strings, and no one would hire him. The only job he could find was a part-time position at a convenience store. After finally securing a job, Andrew signed the divorce papers, and I demanded alimony and child support. But he claimed he couldn't pay that much on a part-time job. That wasn't my problem. I told him, if you can't pay overtime, then you'll need to pay it all at once. The kind wife I once was had turned into a demon. Just like his mother. Desperate, Andrew asked his parents for help, but they completely refused. He then asked to live with them, but that was also denied. Driven to desperation, Andrew took out a loan to pay everything at once. As a result, he ended up deep in debt, juggling multiple part-time jobs at convenience stores. Recently, I had a chance to talk to Alice, the boss's daughter. She apologized with a laugh, saying she felt sorry for what happened back then. It turns out she's quite the heartless woman. She casually mentioned, he had other women too, you know. Then she said, I can't stand guys like that. I wanted to make him suffer. He's an enemy to women, right? And finally, she added, I don't think he'll ever be able to drive again. He made my dad furious. He messed with his precious daughter, so it's only natural. I realized then that she was the scariest woman of all. It seems Andrew got himself involved with the most terrifying woman. Serves him right.